I turned 30 that day, and during what should have been a celebration, I sat my family down and said, "We've got to scale things back. I can't keep footing the bill for everything forever." Dad didn't take it seriously, just rolled his eyes and shot back. "Then maybe start with your brother's mountain of debt." I said no. And when I got home later, all my stuff was sitting out on the porch. The locks were changed. A note on the door said, "Think about what you did." I didn't yell. Didn't argue. I just kept quiet and scheduled a message for the next morning. That's when everything shifted. "Happy birthday, Josh," Mom chirped in a sugary voice, way too upbeat, like she hadn't guilted me an hour earlier for not offering to pay off Kyle's car loan. I was sitting at the far end of the table, staring at a cheap slice of store-bought cake. The wax from the crooked number 30 candle had already started melting into the frosting. Across from me, Dad lounged back in his chair, one arm slung over the side, the other wrapped around a beer. Kyle, 28 years old, jobless, allergic to adulthood, was glued to his phone, texting with one hand and scrolling with the other. And yeah, it was a brand new iPhone. The same one I'd paid for. I cleared my throat. "So," even though my chest was pounding, I tried to keep my tone level. "We need to talk about money." Dad gave a grunt. Mom blinked, confused. Kyle didn't even look up. "I can't keep covering everything," I said, steady but firm. "I'm trying to build something for myself here. I've been handling the mortgage, paying utilities, stocking the fridge. I even took care of Kyle's second DUI fine last year. I need to cut back." That got Kyle's attention. He finally looked up. "You're acting like you're doing us all a favor." I stared at him, dead serious. "Because I am." He laughed. "Oh wow. Okay." Then Dad leaned forward, squinting like I'd just said something blasphemous. "If that's how you feel, start with your brother's $100,000 debt. That's the elephant in the room, right?" Mom shot him a sharp glance, clearly regretted that he'd voiced it out loud. Kyle froze. "I'm not paying that," I said, my voice low. "That's not my burden to carry." The room went silent. No one said a word. Dad leaned back again, a smirk twitching at the corner of his mouth. "Well," he muttered, "guess we know where you stand." When I came home from work the next day, everything I owned, my clothes, books, tools, even the laptop I used for freelance gigs, was sitting neatly stacked on the porch. They'd changed the locks. A note was taped to the door. "Think about what you did." That's all it said. I stood there for a long time, staring at the handwriting. It was Mom's. Precise. No doubt about it. I didn't knock. Didn't shout. Didn't shed a tear. I took a deep breath, grabbed my stuff, and walked away. Then I sent that message I'd queued up. The next morning, the tide turned. But if you want to understand how it all came to this, getting kicked out on my birthday and handed a note like a punch in the gut, you'd have to rewind a decade. I was 20 when Kyle wrecked his first car. He was drunk. Mom cried. Dad shouted. And me? I was the reliable big brother with a clean record and a full-time job. I paid the tow fee and loaned him $3,000 to cover repairs. Never saw that money again. It was supposed to be a one-time bailout. But somehow, it became routine. When Kyle flunked out of college, it was on me for not helping him study. When he got fired from 3 jobs in a year, Mom and Dad reminded me that some folks just have a harder time. When his bank account went into the red, Mom would call, voice soft and full of guilt. "Josh, honey, he's your brother. Can't you cover it just this once?" And every time I did. I paid rent when he got booted from his apartment. Paid insurance on his car, the same car he used for weekend parties while I walked to work in the rain. I bought groceries, kept the lights on at home, even covered Mom and Dad's overdue property taxes. And through it all, I still scraped together enough to take night classes and earn my electrical certification. Meanwhile, Kyle spent his days down in the basement, working on music, and basically doing nothing. The worst part? He never even acted thankful. In fact, he treated me like a walking ATM. "Josh is doing fine," he'd say with a shrug, like I didn't have a face. "He can handle it. That's what big brothers are for." And Mom and Dad? They ate it up. I could have moved out. Probably should have. But any time I brought it up, Mom would get all emotional and say, This house doesn't feel right without you in it. And Dad would remind me I wasn't paying every single bill, like covering everything except the phone plan didn't count. And Kyle? He'd just grin and say, "Why would I leave? I've got it made." Yeah. I was living the dream. Working 60-hour weeks, barely seeing sunlight, while my brother bought fancy headphones with money he owed me. I was skipping lunch to save cash, while Dad used my paycheck to repair the air conditioner, and then told me I should be grateful I didn't have a landlord to deal with. Everything came to a head 2 months before my birthday. I walked in from a brutal 14-hour shift to find Kyle throwing a party. There was my gaming PC, the one I'd built over 5 years, set up in the living room, blasting music through his speakers. Strangers were passed out on the couch. Beer bottles everywhere. My keyboard was sticky. I didn't yell. Just quietly unplugged everything and carried it back to my room. The next morning, Mom cornered me with a full-on lecture. "You humiliated him," she snapped. Her voice had that sharp edge she saved for when she wanted me to feel small. "His friends saw you stomping around like a lunatic." I kept my voice steady. "They were using my stuff," I said. "It's not just your house," she snapped back. "Everything in this place is shared." That word hit like a punch. Like the mortgage I paid every month. Like the groceries I bought, the electric bill that drained straight from my checking account. That night, I sat down and stared at my budget. I was closer than ever. Just a few more months of grinding, and I'd finally be able to leave. For good. But then came Kyle's next stroke of genius, crypto trading. He dumped $25,000 of student loan money he never planned on paying back, into some sketchy app and burned through it in less than 2 weeks. Naturally, it wasn't his fault. He blamed the platform, the crypto market, even his buddies. And then, like it was no big deal, he turned to me. "You could spot me 10 grand, right?" he asked casually, like he was asking me to swing by the store and grab milk, just to help me get back on track. I laughed out loud. And for the first time in years, I said no. That changed everything. Suddenly I wasn't dependable, I was selfish. Cold. Acting like I was too good for them. "You think you're better than us now?" Dad barked at me one night after dinner. "Just 'cause you've got a little cash saved up?" "I don't think I'm better," I told him. "I'm just tired." The next morning, Kyle put out a tweet. He must have thought I wouldn't see it. "Some people only give so they can control you," it read. "Cut them off, and you'll see who they really are." It got over 300 likes. I didn't say a thing. Then my birthday rolled around. And stupidly, I hoped maybe we could all act like grown-ups for one day. I was picturing something simple, a quiet dinner, a modest cake, no fireworks. Instead, they staged an ambush. Dad watched me the whole time, daring me to say a word about money. Kyle kept cracking jokes about how I should tap into my trust fund, as if that even existed. Mom wore this painfully bright smile, like she thought she could keep everything from blowing up if she just smiled hard enough. Finally, I said it. "I can't keep paying for everything." And just like that, the room exploded. Dad leaned in. "Then start with your brother's 6-figure debt." He didn't say it as a joke, or even as a challenge. He said it like it was expected. And when I said no, there wasn't a fight. No argument. They just threw me out. Like I was nothing. But they made one big mistake. They forgot who they taught to stay quiet. Who they trained to be patient. To never react. This time, I had a plan. I didn't knock on the door. Didn't reply to the note. Didn't call or cry. I just picked up my bags, crammed what I could into the back of my old beat-up Toyota, and drove off. I ended up at a dingy little motel off the highway, the kind of place that smells like stale smoke and regret. The vending machine swallowed my change and didn't even blink. I sat there on the edge of the scratchy bedspread, their note still balled up in my hand. "Think about what you did," it said. I did. I thought about everything. And then I hit send. See, over the years, I'd picked up a few skills. One of them? Knowing that every family runs on a kind of story. A myth they all believe. Ours went like this. Josh is the dependable one. Josh always helps. Josh never says no. And because Josh never says no, we can do whatever the hell we want. What they didn't know was that I'd been keeping records for 2 years. Every Venmo request. Every invoice. Every wire transfer. Every time I bailed one of them out, I saved proof. Every guilt trip text. Every shady little message. Every time someone told me I was being too sensitive when I asked for boundaries, I logged it, backed it up, and timestamped it. And then there was the letter. I'd written it months earlier, back when I first started to seriously wonder, what if I just walked away? It wasn't a goodbye note. It was a full-on confession. I laid it all out. Like how I secretly paid off the second mortgage after the bank called me, not them. Or how Kyle tried to steal my identity to get a $15,000 personal loan, thankfully declined, but the inquiry still scarred my credit report. And how Mom and Dad knew about it and asked me to drop it. Family sticks together, they said. And I did. Until I didn't. That morning, less than 24 hours after being kicked out of the house I'd been paying for, I sent the letter. But I didn't just send it to them. I hit send on every contact in the family tree. My godmother down in Tampa. Uncle Dave over in Jersey. All of Mom's cousins. Dad's brothers and sisters. Even the group chat from their church. And I didn't just tell the story, I backed it up. Screenshots. Receipts. Transaction histories. Voice messages. All neatly organized in folders. I even attached a spreadsheet titled, What Josh Actually Paid For. Within an hour, it went viral in the family. My phone lit up like a Christmas tree. By noon, I had 26 missed calls from Mom, 8 from Dad. Kyle didn't bother to call, he just sent a single message. You didn't have to do that. That was cold. I left him on read. At 12:37 p.m., I got a text from Aunt Maria, someone I hadn't heard from in years. Good for you. I always knew they were using you. Proud of you, sweetheart. And then, the whole thing blew wide open. Turns out, their reputation, their image as the wholesome, church-going, all-American family, meant more to them than I ever realized. People started asking questions. Hard ones. Why was I paying the bills while Kyle partied? Why did I get kicked out of a house I was funding? Why did Kyle have brand new sneakers, tattoos, and headphones while unemployed? Why was I treated like a tenant when I was the one keeping the lights on? Dad tried to spin it. We were just giving him some structure, Dad told one of our relatives, trying to sound noble. It was all a mutual agreement. Bad move. See, what they didn't know was I'd recorded everything the night they kicked me out. I'd slipped my phone into my jacket pocket before dinner and hit record. The audio came out crystal clear. Dad, then start with your brother's debt. Me, I'm not paying that. Dad, then get out. Mom, think about what you did. There was no twisting that. No clever excuse to cover it up. And the real kicker? I also reported Kyle for trying to steal my identity. I'd let it slide once. Never again. When the police showed up at the house to question Kyle about the attempted loan fraud, things got heated, fast. A neighbor recorded the whole scene. You could hear the yelling from the street. Doors slamming. Kyle shouting something about how he deserved a break. Someone, probably Mom, screaming, "We told you not to make this worse." That video ended up in the neighborhood Facebook group. And just like that, the family that used to gossip about everyone else's business became the drama of the week. Front and center. I didn't watch it happen in real time. I was busy settling into my new apartment. 1-bedroom place above a flower shop downtown. Peaceful. The morning light hit just right. The kitchen didn't smell like tension or leftovers from arguments no one ever finished. I paid the deposit with money I should have been saving for years, but finally got to use for myself. That first night I sat on the couch, no TV, just a box of takeout and my laptop, watching the whole storm from a comfortable distance. They tried to reach out. Over and over. Calls, texts, voicemails. When I didn't answer, Mom showed up at my job. She waited in the lobby, eyes red and puffy, holding a Tupperware container of my favorite casserole like it was a peace offering that could erase everything. I stepped outside to meet her. She opened her mouth to speak, but I cut in first. "I'm not coming back," I said. Cold Eve. "Josh," she whispered, "you're tearing this family apart." I let out a dry laugh. "No," I said. I just stopped holding it together. She flinched. For the first time, I didn't feel bad about it. That moment was the shift, not just in how the family operated, but in how I saw them. They weren't just tired parents. Kyle wasn't just a struggling little brother. They were people who kept making the same choices, over and over. And now they were facing the consequences. Funny thing about silence, it can be louder than any argument. For the first time in my life, I wasn't waking up to Kyle blasting music through the walls. No more dad slamming kitchen cabinets like some kind of tantrum in khakis. I wasn't walking on eggshells around mom's icy moods, waiting to trip a hidden wire. Now I had quiet. Mornings were calm. I made my coffee without wondering if someone had emptied the milk. I could leave my wallet out on the counter and not worry about money vanishing. I didn't have to explain myself anymore. I wasn't defending every boundary, every decision, every breath I took. No one asked for money. No one guilt-tripped me with a, "just this once." No manipulative texts. It felt weird at first. Like I was waiting for the peace to vanish. Like I'd come home and find Kyle lounging on my couch, feet on the cushions, smirking as he asked me to float him again. But they never came. The calls didn't stop immediately, though. Mom left long, weepy voicemails, carefully worded to press every guilt button she could find. "Josh, this isn't you. You've always been the strong one. The helper. Don't let pride destroy our family." Dad sent one message. Just one. "You better be proud of yourself." I ignored it. Over time, the calls slowed down. Then they stopped. 3 weeks after I moved out, a letter arrived in my mailbox. Handwritten. From Kyle. It was surprisingly short. "I know I messed up," he wrote. "I just did what they always let me do. And now it's all falling apart. Mom and Dad are a wreck. No one talks to us anymore. You blew it all up. Hope it was worth it." No apology. Just blame. And that told me everything I needed to know. I didn't respond. Instead, I got to work rebuilding what they'd nearly drained out of me. I enrolled in a coding boot camp, something I'd wanted for years but always pushed aside because we're a little short this month. I started freelancing at night, saving for the future I actually wanted. One I chose. Not the one they kept dragging me into. I found real friends. People who didn't care about how much I earned, just how I was doing. People who didn't expect anything but honesty. I joined a climbing gym downtown. Got back in touch with that feeling of movement, of risk, of climbing for myself, not dragging someone else up the wall behind me. Therapy helped too. Turns out, spending your life as the fixer leaves a lot of invisible scars. My therapist gave it a name, parentification. When the kid becomes the adult in the family, forced to carry the weight emotionally, financially, everything. She looked at me one day and said, "You were never selfish. You were just drained." And she was right. Meanwhile, back in the house I used to pay for, they fell apart. Mom had to get a job again. She hated every second of it. After spending 10 years playing house manager with someone else's paycheck, mine, it was a rude awakening. That? He started drinking more. Word is, he got into a loud shouting match with one of the neighbors. Someone just casually asked about the Josh thing, and Dad exploded. And Kyle? From what I heard, he finally landed a job at a gas station. It lasted 6 days. Then he quit and blamed the manager, like always. The rest of the family started backing away. Slowly, awkwardly. They'd seen too much, heard too much. The storybook image of our tight-knit, happy household couldn't survive the receipts. And for the first time, I didn't feel responsible for fixing it. I skipped Thanksgiving. Spent it with a buddy's family instead. People who actually laughed at dinner, who didn't treat every meal like a quiet war. I brought pie. They called me family, and meant it. At Christmas, I got a card in the mail from my godmother. Just a simple note inside. "You deserved better. And you finally claimed it. I'm proud of you." I cried reading it. Not because I was hurting, because for once, someone saw me. Really saw me. You know what happens after you burn your old life down? Nothing. No explosion. No big finale. No sudden knock on the door with apologies and tears. Just silence. And it was the most beautiful silence I've ever heard. For the first time in 30 years, My phone didn't buzz with guilt-laced messages or frantic demands for help. There were no emergencies about Kyle losing his license again. No panic over dad forgetting to pay taxes. No tears from mom saying, "It doesn't feel like family anymore." They thought I'd come crawling back. That I'd crack under the guilt. That I'd feel lonely. But here's what really happened. I felt free. For the first time, I could breathe. I could stand in my own space, the space I paid for, furnished, cleaned, and not worry about someone stealing my food, taking my keys, or hijacking my future. I'd been holding that family up for so long, I forgot what it felt like to stand on my own 2 feet. To walk tall. To live without being needed like a crutch. They used to call me the backbone of the family. I wasn't the backbone, I was the fuse. And now that I'm gone, the fire they built has nowhere left to go but back on them. About 2 months after everything blew up, I ran into Kyle. Of course it happened at a gas station. He was behind the counter, name tag crooked, eyes tired. He still had that same smug smirk, but it looked worn out, like a knockoff of who he used to pretend to be. "Josh," he said with that fake charm grin. "Didn't expect to see you around." I gave him a simple nod. He leaned in like he had some big truth to share. "You know," he said, "you really screwed things up for them." I blinked. "You mean when I stopped paying your bills?" He shrugged. "They're still cleaning up the mess. You really left them hanging." I looked him dead in the eye. "You're confusing me cleaning up my life with ruining yours." Then I paid for my gas and walked out. Left him standing there, staring at the door like he couldn't believe the ATM walked away. He still doesn't get it. None of them do. Because people like Kyle don't learn from consequences. Not until the cash runs out and no one's watching anymore. And I'm not sticking around to watch that lesson unfold. Here's the thing nobody tells you about walking away from a toxic family. The hardest part isn't the distance. It's realizing you were never loved for who you were, just for what you gave. They didn't value me. They valued my silence. My sacrifice. My ability to pay the bills. But love without respect? That's not love. That's leverage. So when people ask me, "Would you ever talk to them again?" I don't even pause. Because for the first time in my life, I love myself more than I need their approval. I used to crave it, desperately. Every good grade. Every raise. Every loan I paid off. A quiet, aching hope that maybe this time, they'd finally see me. But they never did. They only saw what I could do for them. Not who I was beneath it. I finally see me. I'm the guy who paid off 3 mortgages that weren't his. Who stayed up late to tutor a brother who never even tried. Who kept the lights on in a house that never truly felt like home. And I'm also the guy who finally said, "No more." I built a new life from scratch. And this time, the foundation isn't guilt. Or obligation. Or fear of disappointing someone. It's peace. It's choice. It's mine. These days, I spend weekends hiking, reading, taking classes. I started learning photography, something I'd always wanted to do, but never could afford to because there was always something more important to pay for. I'm dating someone now. Someone who doesn't need saving. Who asks about my day. Who doesn't shame me for having boundaries. And sometimes, late at night, lying in bed, I think about the kid I used to be, the one who tiptoed through his own house, paycheck in hand, hoping it would finally earn him love. And I whisper to him, "You got out. You made it. You don't owe them silence anymore." Let them whisper. Let them rewrite the story. Let them call me selfish, dramatic, cold. Because here's the truth they'll never admit. Without me, their system collapsed. Without me, their lies unraveled. Without me, the truth finally got heard. And I didn't have to scream. I just walked away. Sometimes, the loudest act of rebellion is locking the door behind you.